Hello everybody, welcome to Primus. This is B for Belarus program with our beloved Vladimir Baranich. Vlad, hello.
Hello.
Today we are dedicating our program to the general theme, food in Belarus, or there's a popular quote, we are what we eat. So we will be talking about eating habits in Belarus and in fact, as a result of our eating habits, who we finally are. Vlad, so how would you characterize food in Belarus? Greasy, tasty, delicious, poor, traditional? What kind of impressions do Belarusians have about food, and why isn't there any food chain like Belarusian cuisine anywhere in the world, but only in some regional Belarusian cities? Even Moscow doesn't have any good Belarusian cuisine restaurants.
Too many topics for one question.
And I would just throw you with many things we'll be discussing.
First of all, let me stress that this program is unique and it shall be number one because food is something unites everybody and maybe disunites everybody. But there is a saying that there are no friends with taste. Matter of taste of food.
Taste differ, right?
Yes.
I know, but okay. I hosted many foreigners, and most of them acknowledging the taste and the deliciousness of our Belarusian different dishes and cuisine in general, argued that it is too fatty, too greasy, too heavy. And when I look around and see beautiful Belarusians, a lot of compared to Americans, with a lot of overweight people, fat people. In Belarus, this kind of fat-based or greasy food should generate more fat people than in America. How come we don't have it? Okay.
Okay, let's first of all about greasy. Yes, I agree. Traditional Belarusian food is too heavy, too greasy because it was originally, let's say, invented, or it originates from peasants with the traditional food, which they ate pork, flour, potato, etc.
But at one point when Belarusians are called bulbashi, or potato people, but in fact when you talk to the people who are keen on Belarusian history, they say that back in the first half of the 20th century, 2000s, the second millennium, Belarus didn't have any potatoes, like Europe didn't have any potatoes before Columbus brought it to Europe.
Correct. That's this bulbashi comes from Soviet times, from Soviet army, probably, I think so, where they had such nicknames, derogative nicknames, and during Soviet times, Belarus was one of the top potato producing republics of the Soviet Union, but now no longer. Now we consume potato from Egypt.
Right.
And,
Morocco.
So now the only Bryansk Oblast in Russia, they produce more potato than the whole Belarus. So it's no longer true, but just the derogatory name. But actually, potato is healthy food, as now we see recent studies. And the combination of food, how people eat. And you say about you don't see so many obese people on streets. Well, the problem of maybe not so obese as in United States, because food is not as affordable in Belarus. People sometimes even starve. I recently heard about events in Orsha where people, just feel, lose faint because they didn't eat enough. So, but as for tradition of eating, it comes mostly from villages. Where I remember, like my grandmother used to live in a village, and I was there. What they would eat there, traditional, would be roasted, or how do you say it, roasted fat. It's actually what is called sala here. It's a lard, or probably in the West they don't have this
they do have,
layer,
like in America,
layer,
they
yes,
did have it,
layer of this fat. Of pork.
fat, lard. Yeah,
Yes,
we know
they
what you're
just
talking about.
roast it, and then they put the potato there, eggs.
Not necessarily. What I still love, and I think that's very healthy because it contains some acids which are unique. You don't cook it in any way. You have it pickled. You have it
Yes.
salted. You
Yes,
keep it in a special place for some 1 month or more, and then you put it in the freezer.
Salted lard, yes.
Salted, pickled lard, and then usually it has like
Thin layers. Yes.
thin layers of meat and fat, and essentially that's why some people say that our national flag,
Yes.
white, red, and white,
Yes.
resembles lard.
Salo,
high quality.
Sal is lard.
When you have it with garlic or with onion, with black bread, which also unique in Belarus,
yes,
then it's fabulous. You know, my friends who live in the United States somewhere else, they seldom come to Belarus. They say, please bring us Belarusian black bread, they call it. And some of them who are keen for some old good times, they say, please, and if it's possible, please bring us salo, lard.
Yes, yes.
Which is like delicious in our country. If you you can say that we compete with Ukrainians on the issue of sala or lard.
Yes. Well, I mean, we try to compete, but Ukrainian sala is beyond any competition. They win any competition because it's a matter of fodder. I mean, what pork is raised on. I mean, how they feed pigs, and so our traditionally they used to feed pigs on potato, and the quality and the taste of that sala is not as good as, like, for example, it was fed by
grain and greenery,
by maize, by
maize,
corn, which is in the United States called corn. In Ukraine they have corn, and they had corn, and there was actually good for taste of pork.
It's like, we can talk a lot about lard and the taste of pork, because it's like in Italy. You go to Italy and you talk about the quality of flour there, and they say, okay, what region of Italy is it from?
Yes.
How sunny is it there? What conditions, what kind of soil is there? So they are keen on this. Likewise, we can say about different tastes of lard or pork, because pork is definitely our number one national meat, based on how we feed a pig, right?
Yes.
Whether it eats flour, eats baked food,
Yes.
or eats something else. And that's why when I remember my parents always had pigs,
It was an
and
area
I
household.
loved, and everybody, when I treated my friends to my parents' lard, they say, "Oh gosh, it tastes wonderful." Even some Muslims, when I was in the army, when they tried our lard, they say, "Oh gosh, it's tasty." We just we abandoned our religion for some time because we love your lard.
Well, in Soviet times, there were no Muslims. They were the guys from these Muslim countries that were Central Asia, like Uzbeks and Turkmen. They actually, if they wouldn't eat that pork, they would die. I mean, from starvation in the army, so had to eat it. But not recently, for many years, I've been healthy food freak. I no longer eat this lard and everything, and I'm more vegan rather than
I still keep to the traditions of Belarusian cuisine, which is meat-based, pork-based, potato-based, and I love it, essentially. If you keep it in addition to that, but you go to a restaurant or cafe, because, few foreigners would would visit a household and see what people eat there. But if you generally go to a cafe, go to a restaurant or a fast food stuff, what kind of food would you recommend, and what kind of food would you never recommend in Belarus?
Well, it's again too wide topic for one question. Probably we shall talk about how safe food is in Belarus and how products are good. I mean, generally affordable in markets, in groceries, etc. As for restaurants, actually, I have the video on my website, expat.by. I'm talking there with my friend who used to be in restaurant business, and he had his own, kind of rest cafeteria, let's call it. Fast food cafeteria, let's call it. He had it, and he knows a lot about that stuff, and we talk about that in that video. And so his expert opinion is very valuable about that. And restaurants, well, his opinion actually, because I can go there and say, well, it tastes good. For me, it tastes good, nice, everything. I mean, on the first appearance, but he says there's everything with our products. Everything is bad, let's say, because he says our restaurants are beyond any standard, international level, etc.
You mean the service is lousy?
No services. Food, I mean products. The original products, if they come from Belarus, they are not. Let's take fish. I wouldn't actually eat any fish at all in Belarus, except that fish coming from ponds, which is locally grown, like carp.
So what's wrong with that fish?
Well, because it is like it's in a joke. It is third freshness, second freshness. We don't have sea.
Yeah, but you go to a supermarket, right? And it's a big aquariums with fish. So what's wrong about it? So
well, if you're rich enough, you can if you take that living creature, that's fine.
Even in Komarovka, it's our central Minsk collective farm market, as it were. You go and you see these trucks with
trucks.
Tanks.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Say living fish.
Living fish. Yes, that's what I mean. Because they're locally grown, mostly carp there, and that's fine. They grow it in ponds. Another question how they feed them with, but I don't like that. I mean, it for me it stinks with the marsh, and I don't like that fish, and it's too bony. But as for that frozen fish.
Should be frozen or cooled, different.
I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't eat it. I mean, I just because it comes from Russia, from maybe from Norway, from I don't know where it comes from, but this business is in the hands of very narrow.
No, we're not talking about oligopoly on fish and seafood in Belarus, which makes fish and seafood very, very expensive compared to other countries.
Yes,
but according to different opinion polls, Belarusians really eat very little fish and seafood, which is one of the reasons is that it's very expensive. The other reason is that we do not have it as a must in our food or eating lists of must products.
Well, you see, due to custom restrictions and again this monopoly of a certain group of people who controls this market, we don't have competition here. So the quality of that fish which comes to our market is very doubtful, I would say. I mean, I would rather not eat it. I mean, since I'm healthy freak, just because of that. Again, fish from ponds is living, that's fine. Whoever can, take time and cook something is fine. It's delicious. Because not only carp, there are other fishes, I don't know how to be called in
English. Different kinds of fish.
Yes.
All right, so Belarusians don't like fish. At the same time, when they go abroad, they like to try different seafood varieties, different popular cuisines. And if you can say that Belarusian cuisine is quite poor, the number of different dishes is limited, though you can buy different books. I remember the book from my childhood, like 5 500 dishes from potatoes. So you can boil it, fry it,
Yes.
grill it, bake it, or whatever you can have, but it's still potato-based cuisine, right? But now we have different kinds of cuisine in Minsk, especially Minsk, right? At the same time, we have McDonald's, we have Burger King, we have KFC. Probably Belarus was the last in Europe to get to ensure access of these food chains into Belarusian market. But how good are cuisines from other regions, parts of the world in Belarus? Chinese, Vietnamese, Italian, Polish, Lithuanian, Russian, Ukrainian. Essentially, if you want to do eating tour in Belarus, can you do it?
Well, it's a difficult question again. On one side, we have many of these traditional cuisines, like Chinese. We have Chinese and even Indian restaurant, several Indian restaurants, and
Chinese,
some like Georgian. I mean, not.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 Georgian restaurants already.
Yes, and Azerbaijani and Uzbek and many other. Vietnamese are like chains here everywhere. They're cheap and everywhere they call Saigon, something like that. Everywhere on these cheap markets, bazaars actually what it's called. And again, I say it tastes nice, but since I know what's behind. What's on the kitchen, let's say, since my friend used to work in this area, I wouldn't eat there, I just, on this fast, I mean, in this like Saigon Vietnamese restaurants, or on what is now, we have a lot of kebab, this stuff, this Turkish chain came from Germany, because in Germany,
Turkish cuisine
they were put out of business in Germany due to healthy reasons, and now they came here in this region.
Yeah, kebabs everywhere.
And what I read recently, I read an interview with the guy who cooks there and sells that stuff. That's terrible. I mean, after this interview, I wouldn't eat before that, and now I would never eat their kebab, because what is made from, or like they cheat with meat, everything. It can be.
So it comes to first manipulating with ingredients. Secondly, it's a rush to earn a quick buck without any care about reputation, branding.
Well, you see, it's another topic. I remember we used to talk about reputation and about Belarusian business many times, and always repeat the Belarusian style of business is to steal and cheat. It's like, this is must have. If you have Belarusian business, you shall remember that number one rule, steal and cheat.
Threat is that you will be outsmarted by some people who do not think long term. The integrity is not the
if there is no 30% profit, that's not a business. I mean, 100 or 200% is better, but I mean the minimum, like according to our law, when you buy something in the shop, by the law they have this margin of profit 30%.
30%, right.
30%. It's by the law they have to have this 30%. That's just ridiculous.
It is. Well, that means that there is little competition, and Belarusian economy is full of monopolies and oligopolies.
Talking about cuisines, we have many of them. They have original cooks, chefs, and they cook nice, they everything. But again, the main question in our conversation, I would say, not like restaurants and chains, but the food, the product, the initial products, raw products, where they come from, are they safe or are they not safe? So that's the question. Remember that in Belarus, probably the only country in the world where on the state level the president announced that the territory contaminated by Chernobyl is no longer contaminated by his order.
Yeah.
And so the food is fine there. And remember that what they do there, they take food from there, which is has some deviations in norms, like they say radioactivity. They mix it with normal food. I mean, with normal products. For example, from other areas of Belarus or imported from Poland. and then the final product would be with these laboratory tests. They're fine, but man, they mix it with contaminated food, and that's terrible. And the contamination of there's another question for talk in Belarus. How safe is environment in Belarus? And the environment in Belarus is terrible.
Well, we'll talk about it later because
Yes.
they argue that one of the reasons we have high taxes is that the government cares about environment, that it fights pollution, but in fact,
baloney.
yeah, I agree with that. But go back to food stuff,
Yes.
right? So potato is one thing, pork is second thing. Then if you have guests from abroad, what kind of definitely they would say, Vlad, we'd like to taste something original, something local, and there's definitely the word that emerges very, very quickly in the first 5 items, draniki. How would you explain to a foreigner what draniki is?
It's simple. I mean, too many myths about the traditional Belarusian food. You can take it any other nation with potato, and they'll find what is these draniki.
Potato pancakes, in fact.
Yes, they just this process of
peeling potatoes, grating potatoes,
grate
then
it.
preparing the stuff. Essentially, that's not that simple because
it's sort of. Yeah, well, it's
you
simple.
need to balance it because first, if you peeling potato is okay, right? Grating potato is one thing. Then you have this.
I never peel
mass.
potato. Never peel
I
potato.
always do that. I'm world champion. When I was in the dormitory, I was world champion in peeling potatoes.
I don't do this.
Speed-wise and quality-wise.
I don't peel it. I learned this in the United States. I remember
How to peel potatoes, really?
No, not to peel potatoes.
Not to peel potatoes.
They just serve it with the whole
with the peeling.
potato. And
Peeled potato.
I asked why don't you peel it, and they say why. It's okay only this way. It was kind of bake it.
Baked, yeah. They like it baked.
And since that time, in our country, it is called in Mundiri. It's called. It's like. In a sweet or in
But their potato is different. Well, my friend who lives in the United States, we love to make potatoes in the dormitory, and then he went there and he tried to repeat our experience in Minneapolis, and he said that, well, I bought potatoes, but that was good for nothing because it had too much liquid and there's too little starch.
Yes.
And without starch, you cannot get this kind of substance of the potato, thing.
Yes.
With that is the basic thing for making potatoes. Essentially, what makes Belarusian potatoes crispy and fresh and the unique taste is the quality of Belarusian potatoes, and it is the result of Belarusian soil, which is like in if you have French grapes, right? That makes French champagne unique. You go to Italy, you have unique Italian flour because of the sun, soil, and everything. Likewise, I would argue Belarusian soil produces unique kinds of potatoes, which is the best for potato making. I mean, for draniki making.
You surprised me. I never heard about this.
This is my theory.
No.
I would sell it to foreigners.
I grow. My grandmother used to grow potato, and now for second year I'm growing. This potato myself since I became a real healthy freak. And I tested maybe. How many? Maybe 7 or 10 different kinds of potato from different areas of the world, and this soil probably they're the same. These nutrients and everything. I don't know. Our soil is actually not very well. It's not very good. I mean, it depends on the region of Belarus because, here near Minsk, it's too heavy. And potato doesn't like this heavy soil, but it's anyway. I mean, if for starch and for everything, well, we were talking about this draniki, which number one must-have food. I mean, cuisine, Belarusian cuisine. Well, yes, this draniki. Well, probably if they're just somehow traditionally cooked. I don't know. Maybe in other countries they don't have this food because it is.
But in fact, you go to Ukraine, you go to Moscow. They have a dish called draniki, but the taste is different. To say nothing about going to the United States, the taste is absolutely different there because of the quality of the potato itself. It's sweet. But the fundamental thing is it's different. So when we argue about the marketing of Belarusian cuisine in general, right? I don't know why we don't have a single fast food chain anywhere in the world, including Belarus. Because if we have some popular things, really like kolduny, right? Like or zeppelins or whatever.
Yes,
you have this unique thing. You have draniki. We have what else? We have some different kinds of soup, right?
Yes.
They're tasty.
Soups.
And we do not have any fast food chain. Machanka, exactly. Which is, again, you will explain in a moment what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. Either it's because of lack of private initiative or lack of technology, or we have all kinds of cuisines, even in Belarus right now. You go pizzas, frozen pizza, good for nothing, like trash.
Yes.
But Belarusians buy it, say, okay, we've got this piece. At the same time, you can hardly order a draniki like online, have them fresh, crispy, tasty, with sour cream, because nobody seems to care about it.
You know, with draniki, probably the reason you can't have them frozen or
defrozen and tasty at the same time.
probably not. I don't know. Draniki have to be done like my grandmother used to do this. She would sit on somewhere near her house, and where this potato was, she was peeling it and then doing all this process, and her cat was sitting there and waiting for her for this draniki. He liked them very much, and so I was eating them fresh, hot and everything, with the sour cream from her cow, and it's the whole complex of this, let's say, traditional environment. I don't know, this milieu which creates the whole atmosphere. Maybe this plays a role. So
okay, so that's about potato and draniki. Another flagship dish in Belarus is machanka. Describe what it is.
That's the most delicious thing I ever ate in my life.
You see, we have difference. I love draniki, I love lard. You are an expert or keen on machanka, so explain what machanka is.
Oh, it was made, when it is made from, machanka is, first of all, let me say, it is very unhealthy food, very unhealthy. Because it is done, you take lard, I mean this lard, and roast it until it becomes the half of the pot with that liquid, with this melted. Lard, and then they put the sausages, which my grandmother used to make herself.
Yeah.
From her own homemade, and with homemade spices and everything. It was so delicious. The taste was amazing. And so when all this roasted there, and with half of that liquid, half of that, the pot, let's say it was, or whatever it's called, where it was cooked in, and so then you would just add the, as far as I remember, flour and something else. I don't remember exactly the ingredient. Right. It would become white,
right?
Sort of.
But again, it was something that really comes.
And then you take blini.
Which is like
blini.
Pancakes, right?
And yes, and you just dip them and eat, and that was...
Essentially, there are three at least kinds of meat. It should be pork, should be sausage, and something else, right? Some beef or chicken?
Not necessarily. No chicken. No. Just lard, and for make it, very greasy, and that sausage, which is also greasy. So it's extremely unhealthy.
This is to kill your
actually,
liver.
Well, you see, what tastes most, most unhealthy stuff, because the most healthy thing would be some, just some broccoli, whatever. I like broccoli actually, but if you take something greasy, a lot of calories, that would be tasty. That would be something roasted, like let's take potato, which would be again roasted potato with a lot of Lard again, the most tasty thing was.
They say lard is everywhere. This is Belarusian. Definitely.
Yes, Belarusian traditional food, because peasants didn't have refrigerators, so they would salt that pork with meat.
Yeah, but that's something I remember when
meat would go actually in sausages.
Another typical feature of Belarusians is sausage. Sausage is a cult of sausages. You remember in the Soviet Union when the sausage was in short supply and it was in high demand, and
it was called deficit.
And if you had sausage in your refrigerator, oh gosh,
especially
especially
salami.
Salami, right? And I remember one of the shocking thing for people to learn about the West was how many kinds of sausage there were in the Western supermarkets. But there's one kind of sausage which essentially is a family tradition, and we had it in my family when we made sausage ourselves. Essentially, when you kill a pig, you have a lot of pork meat, and you have this
from guts,
right? And there's an interesting notion. How would you translate into English the notion or the kind of sausage called palcem pichane, which I would give you one variant called sausage stuffed by fingers with meat and lard.
Yes, that's the description, right? Description is correct, because how can you translate this, from their original language, which has background of centuries, so maybe millennia of culture.
But again, if you compare the quality and the taste of our sausage even today with that, I was in Canada, I was in the United States, I was in the Netherlands, and I tried to experiment with different sausages, trying them. And I should confess that our sausage is definitely the best. The sausage in Poland, in Lithuania, and in Belarus, I love. What about other countries? In Russia and Ukraine is different. It depends on the kind of sausage. But in the Western Europe, in America, probably with the exception of food shops run by Ukrainians or Poles, like in New York, they don't have good high quality sausage to try. That's why the attitude to sausage is different from the one in Belarus.
I think it's again exaggeration based on personal. You just get used to this local taste. That's the only reason. I mean, the same.
You might try different kinds of sausage, and then they don't taste that's delicious
for you. But if you go to YouTube and you see there are now very popular programs like called Italians trying something, Spaniards trying something, Germans trying something, trying Russian cuisine mostly. The Russians, Russians all around the world. They, students mostly. They live in those different cultures, and they try. And they make videos where they feed that traditional food from from Russia, from this, not necessarily from Russia, but from the former Soviet Union, from other cultures. And I watch them a lot. And most of those foreigners, they say that's strange. For them, that our sausages, our cuisine really tastes strange, especially for Italians, what I was watching. If you go to Germany, Germany would be number one sausage country.
Sausage country, right? They have this
German sausage. I like German sausages.
Well, you're right, but
salami. I remember in Soviet times, the best salami was from Finland.
Finland.
Yes, Finland made was number one. You would. Only nomenclatura, party nomenclatura would have access to it.
One more thing, which is I think Belarus is famous for, is dairy products. Our sour cream, our cottage cheese. Wouldn't include here cheese, different kinds of cheese, because cheese in Italy, cheese in France is different. But when we talk about this fresh products, you try. We have different content of fat in the cottage cheese. We have yogurts. We have all different packages of taste of sweet and not so sweet kinds of dairy products. We have kefir or sour. Yes. We have ryazhenka. We have all different kinds of things which are not. You cannot be bought anywhere in the world, but they are healthy and tasty.
As for healthy, let me argue, since I'm against any dairy products, because it's according to Dr. McDougall and other, adherents of that theory. But I used to eat them all my life, so and I still like them, but I don't eat them. But
they're good.
As for taste, yes, they. Well, again, that's a matter of, like you mentioned, yogurt. We don't have yogurt culture. Yogurt is absolutely alien food here, and it's been imposed through, I don't know, from the United States, I don't know where from just due to transnational companies which brought it here, and then they began to producing it here. Traditionally, we had what is called, which you will rarely find, well, you can find it in Czech Republic, in Poland. Well, actually, if you talk about the best food in the world, probably it would be Poland.
Poland definitely
is
very
the
rich
food
cuisine.
heaven, taste and quality, and I mean, just the same culture, actually. The same,
very similar, right?
Similar, and so if somebody wants to taste real nice and safe and authentic food, I would recommend not go to Belarus but to Poland.
No, but we have some, peculiarity. If you like to taste kind of the flavor of Belarus, definitely we have some regional nuances, especially when you talk even like I lived in the town which is very close to Poland, Lithuania, and it was part of the Soviet Union, the most western part of that. And we have like the fusion different cuisines. For example, we made what we call zeppelins, which are now very similar to Lithuanian vedrai. Vedrai is different. Vedrai. Zeppelins. Vedrai is like also the gut stuffed with potatoes and lard. And nobody else had it. Like people in the eastern part of Belarus didn't have it. That was very tasty. Or you bake potatoes, you peel it, and you cut it in half, and then you add fat again, pieces of lard, and put it in the oven, and grill it. Not grill it, but essentially prepared in this way. So different varieties of that. But in Poland, they probably don't have it. But when I talk to Poles older generation, they say, "Oh, used to do it, no more." So the younger generations of Poles don't make it, but old generation still remembers these habits. So essentially, we can say that we can serve these traditions that were popular in Poland back like in 1970s.
Remember, it has always to be served. It has always to be served with moonshine.
Moonshine.
That's without it, you can't taste the real authentic food.
Moonshine.
We both don't use it. We're
teetotalers.
We're absolutely sober people. But I remember, there was time when I was drinking, and moonshine was number one. With the Belarusian cuisine, there would be moonshine.
Oh, definitely. If you want to explore the richness of folk making, of manufacturing of alcohol drinks, oh gosh, there's so different, many varieties of that. Different drinks, starting with moonshine, which is traditional. Then you have nastoikas, which is like different grass-based or different fruit-based drink.
As expert in this, as still expert, but I'm still no longer drinking after reading Alan Carr, The Easy Way to Control Alcohol. But before that, I spent since my 14 years, I was in the village, and they used to drink there maybe since 10 years old. They drink not wine, but they drink the moonshine. Is the number one alcohol beverage there. No other, because we're not winery. I mean, we're not wine country, so to say. Although some people try to make wine from apples, but that's not. I mean,
wine-like drink.
It's let me say, moonshine is number one alcohol drink in Belarus.
Moonshine.
Yeah, because But the problem is that you can't find
all
it
homemade. It's
homemade.
all illegal. But it's everybody agrees.
No,
with that.
it's legal. I mean, if if you do it for yourself, it's completely legal. You can't just sell it without the license, and the license is very seldom given to anybody. There is what is called quasi folk village near Minsk. It's called Dudutki. Yes, they sell. They make moonshine. Officially make moonshine. A very good moonshine. If somebody wants it, they have original cuisine and this quasi traditional atmosphere. But it's a fine place to visit it and taste that moonshine. That's real moonshine. I've been there several times. I was drinking it there, and it's really good.
Well, at the same time, we have mass production controlled by the government of so-called ink-like wine, which is called chernila, which is low-quality fruit-based wine or alcohol drink, which costs like $2 or $3 a bottle, I believe, and it's the best way to kill your liver and your kidneys probably and go crazy. And I still don't know why the government support this kind of immoral production.
Recently, I read some forums. They say now it's much better quality. I mean,
now the poison doesn't kill you in 1 year; it will kill you in 3 years.
Actually, it tastes nice. I mean, for those I read some feedbacks from British and from Brits, from Germans, and they like it, that stuff. Because, well, it tastes nice because it's made from berries, local berries, apples, whatever. The thing is that in all our alcohol products, mostly here, everything is made on the basis of rectified alcohol. Because moonshine is distilled product, and it's a absolutely different technology. And since I no longer drink it, but I still know that. Distilled like brandy or whiskey, it is made on distillation, which is more natural it's not as harmful, let's say, for organism as pure alcohol. But everything here, even those what you call nastoika, this stuff made from alcohol with different herbs, and even sometimes it's called balsam.
Yeah,
balm, yes. It tastes nice, but again, this taste is achieved by modern technologies the
translation is tincture, nastoika, tincture.
Tincture, yes.
Tincture.
It's they taste nice. I mean, but again, not because the herbs, the combination of herbs can be really nice, but again, most tastes here are a product of chemistry. They just add something which tastes.
But sometimes you can go to the rural part of Belarus, and different households produce their own tincture, their own moonshine, and that's really a wealth of different tastes.
It's very rare now. If it is made from homemade moonshine of different, like several. I know one guy who makes that moonshine at home. He made this apparatus. Now it's easy to make. He made himself this apparatus for distilling it, and he distills it. I think three cycles, and then he cleans it with this what is called coal, and the final product is nice, but not as like moonshine. Traditional moonshine would be something like it would resemble. I don't know what it would resemble. It's like whitish stuff.
Right. Well, at the same time, let's conclude that in Belarus, the local cuisine is not popular in the world at all. More and more people, even in Belarus, prefer different cuisines like Italian, healthier food, Chinese, Indian. At the same time, there are many unique dishes and products that taste differently in Belarus than in any part of the world. So if you are keen on elaborating new tastes, in exploring what Belarus cuisine looks like. Definitely you can enrich your experience by coming here, trying different Belarusian dishes. We have starters, we have dairy products, we have different kinds of sausages, we have, as we mentioned, machanka, we have draniki, dozens of different dishes from potatoes. At the same time, you have kvass also, which is brewed soft drink. At the same time, we have moonshine, we have all sorts of things. So I think that weighing it all, would you recommend to a foreigner to come to our country and explore eating tourism?
Probably, we didn't. Well, I would recommend. Yeah, probably I would recommend. But again, I have to. Well, if you have choice between, if you, since my website is kind of business, I have to be, I have to say let's come here and let's taste it here. But to be honest. I mean, since we're just on a talk show and we share our opinions, I would discourage to come to Belarus. I would say you rather go to Lithuania or to Poland to taste something almost similar, almost similar, but less dangerous, let's say, because we didn't go into this topic of how safe is Belarusian food. I mean, it's very. I mean, the thing is that it is not very safe.
I was in New York, and at one point I went to a cafe to try some local. That was New York is international, and I got food poisoning so bad that I stayed the next day in the hotel without.
Probably you ate something like meat.
Yeah, I did.
Since since I don't eat dairy products and meat, there is no chance to get poisoned, because with vegetables or fruits you can't get poisoned.
Right, guys. So whatever, if you really are keen on knowing and learning, exploring Belarusian cuisine, come here. Of course, Lithuania, Poland, Russia, Ukraine are our neighbors. They have similar food patterns. At the same time, I would argue we have unique tastes. And you really, if you want to understand,
of course, I welcome everybody. Since I work with tourists, we work with people who come here, and I take them to, I can really make a tour and show them where, nice restaurants, nice place. Take to the Dudki, show them moonshine, show them. Actually, we have what is called. It is agrarian tourism. We have such
village huts,
and where people really they have this regional environment, these log cabins,
wooden cabins,
and with original food. There is good food, and because
so you see another reason to come to Belarus.
Yes, but you have to know where to go.
That's right. That's why you need you, Vlad, to advise and recommend where to go, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Vlad Baranich, country consultant, media analyst in the program Before Belarus, which was dedicated to food in our country. What you are, what you eat. Eat healthy, eat tasty, and you will live for 100 years at least.
Yes, enjoy life.
Enjoy life. Take care. See you next. Bye.
Goodbye.